And now that bookmobile is being built, hopefully next year it will be up and running, and we'll have it, regularly scheduled to come out to different places in the community and kind of provide that literacy, not only just the books, but also programming to kids around the community in areas where it's most needed. What else? Working on some beach volleyball courts in Palmetto, which I think there are some people who are pretty excited about. We're also working on renovations to John Marvel Park. There's going to be a double gymnasium, rec center. They're going to expand the pool deck and put in a new splash pad, which is awesome because I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they're always looking to get out there and get under a sprinkler. And so the double gym and rec center is actually extremely exciting because this area of the county is really in need of more resources when it comes to childcare and when it comes to kids having something to do. So rec center will have all kinds of programming and hopefully summer camps and things like that available as well. Something else that I'm working on that is in progress, I'm hoping I will get board support for, is the effort to save Nixon's Creek Farm. So right now, Nixon's is for sale, and I would really like for it to be preserved as a public space that people all over the community can enjoy. Something that I would really like to see there is I'd like to see a heritage grove, and with an extension of the Ag Museum that kind of has memories of Nixon and kind of telling people a little bit about that history of citrus growing in the county. Obviously, we'd have a lot more opportunities for active recreation. There's an idea to have maybe some baseball fields there. It's right by Pirate City. So I think that it would be a really, really good thing. It hasn't come before the board. We'll see what happens, but I'm actively pushing for it, and I think it would be a really, really good thing for that part of our community. Next, we have our convention center expansion. Obviously, that is huge. It stands to bring a lot of economic development to the area. So there are a lot of conventions, conferences, et cetera, that we don't have the ability to bring into Manatee County right now. But this kind of facility, along with the hotel that they're building, could really add to that kind of business travel that we see a lot less of right now. So obviously we have all the leisure travel that you could ever want in the world, but the business travel, if we could expand that and become a little bit more balanced, I think would be a good thing. Another project that I'm very excited about is the Washington Park Community Center and the park there. This is a park that has been promised to that community for, about 25 years, and it's just never moved. There's been problem after problem after problem, and it just didn't happen. And finally, we have movement on the project. It was actually used as an illegal dump site for many years, and there were tires and things like that were put onto the site. And so now the county has committed to basically dig all of that out and to replace all of that with new clean fill. But then we decided that not only should they have the park, but a community center as well would really add a lot for people. So again, you can have things like, if people want to have dance classes, if people want to have tutoring sessions, et cetera, just things that bring the community together in person, I think are just instrumental to having a strong, healthy community. I think that people tend to silo themselves these days into like-minded communities, and that's easy to do online. But I think that when we get out and we're with our neighbors, I think that kind of interaction to touch on is our legislative priorities. So I added 2 things to our legislative priority list. So obviously our legislative priority list at the state level is very heavily focused on infrastructure. We're making huge investments into roads. We're asking the state legislature to come with us and invest in that as well. But I have a couple of policy issues and also a funding issue that I'd like to see us champion at the state level, and the board luckily agreed with me and is going to do that. Number 1 is an amendment actually to the Live Local Act. And so that amendment would, and this is something that made it through committees, well, it made it through several committees last year and then died before it got to the end. And that is a tax reduction or rebate for small landlords who are providing affordable housing. So right now, Live Local Act, I believe if you're building new affordable housing and it has over 50 units and there's a whole lot of requirements in the statute, then you can get a tax reduction. But I think that it would make a huge difference, and it would be a great incentive for a lot of these small landlords who, you know, they would like to provide affordable housing, but they're getting, you know, kind of squished in every direction. If they could get a little bit of a lower tax bill, maybe that would incentivize them to go ahead and provide that affordable housing. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully it'll get traction at the state level. It went pretty far last year. I'd like to see it get over the finish line. I'm also exploring whether the county has the ability to do that on its own, regardless of state legislation. So that's something I'm still exploring in the county attorney's office. And then the other priority that I asked the other commissioners to get on board with, and they did, was looking at adjusting funding for child welfare attorneys. So both the Guardian Ad Litem program as well as Children's Legal Services, their starting pay is $52,000 a year. Extremely low, obviously, especially in a place like Manatee County. It's a hard salary to live on. So, and the work is extremely difficult. The caseloads are extremely high. The work is extremely necessary. So, our board in the past has placed a priority on child welfare at our state legislative priority level, and we've seen fruit from that. Our funding calculation for DCF was actually changed to give Manatee County more funding for our child welfare system, which was desperately needed. So hopefully we'll see fruit with this as well. So we're almost 30 minutes in, and that's all I've got. So do we have questions, issues, anything that I can, if you have even like a personal issue that you just want to talk to me about that I can like take notes on and try to help you with later, I'm absolutely happy to do that. Yes?
Just to go back to when you began the conversation of who you are and why you wanted to run for a county commissioner. Is there a specific reason you ran for District 2?
Well, I live in District 2. I've lived in Oneiko since I moved to Bradenton after I graduated from law school. Yes.
From just a operational standpoint, your housing initiatives, do you know what department those will be living in?
It'll be a mix, actually. Okay. So they'll be under Community and Veteran Services for funding, and then so the day-to-day obviously won't be run by the county. It'll be run by nonprofits, but to the extent that the county has involvement on the day-to-day, that'll be under public safety.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
I was waiting for everybody else. Is everybody else done?
Go, I'm glad.
So I'd like to kind of go in order, but I do want to compliment you on the mix, and I think that's a great opportunity not to be missed. You know, Bay Shore Church is actually buying the building in the corner.
I know.
The gazebo is a great wedding venue. I mean, there's a lot going on with that.
I know, it's an amazing place.
And developers just want to bulldoze it, give them top dollar, so I'm glad the Mixons are sticking to their guns, working with the county, so that's a priority with me, because I've been going there a long time, and Janet and Dean are great. So I'm glad that's happening. Let's back up to the 57th Street. Here's what I know.
Okay.
One, will it be open to women veterans and children?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, veterans, sure, I mean, absolutely.
Okay, so you mentioned something about the vouchers, so I've been, first, Manatee County housing vouchers. There's a 5-year waiting list. And as you know, I work with veterans. I house 2 homeless veterans right now with batch vouchers, and they're not even to be found anymore. So when you say, oh, we're just gonna keep them there for 90 or 120 days and move them into a housing voucher, are you using the CARES money? Because it's not gonna be federal Section 8 money. There's a 5 to 8 year waiting list. These people just give up.
So we do have some CARES money that can be used for that purpose, yes. I actually have a breakdown with like a PowerPoint, if you want to send it to you, of potential funding for various programs within the project.
Okay, and so getting out to the property out by the jail, we own the dirt?
We do.
Okay, and who's gonna fund that?
So again, we've set aside $3 million specifically for development of these projects.
Oh, for both projects?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was
Yeah.
confused. I thought.
No,
it was
so we're
3 million.
spending $600,000 right now to rehab the
57th Street?
57th Street.
Okay.
And then, if we need to use a bit more, we will. But
Did we pull permits?
we are pulling permits, yes, we are in the process of pulling permits. It is happening. Absolutely.
Okay, John Marble, great, I mean, we're waiting 20 years for that.
Yeah.
That pool is so run down, and, there's nothing east of 75 for pools for us in our neighborhood, so I'm glad that's moving forward. What else? Your trip to Baltimore that you're taking.
Yeah.
So you're bringing staff, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's gonna cost taxpayers probably 150 grand. Why didn't you just bring the person in here?
150 grand?
Well, I don't know, you guys party pretty good. I don't know, but my point is, we have great services here, so what I am to understand is you're looking for something new that works in Baltimore, right?
Yes, and do you think that the services for addiction treatment in Manatee County work the way that they should and to the extent that they should, and that people are not waiting months and months to get the treatment that they need? Because I can tell you that they are.
Well, listen, my point is that we have great information from the state. Greg DeSantis is a great governor. We have Turning Points, we have Salvation Army, we've got Centerstone, so all those.
Agreed, and so, for example, at Under One Roof, we want to work with all of those programs. I've already spoken with Centerstone about having them come in and do counseling on a regular basis with those families that we're working with. But in child welfare, you had people who would be getting referrals, trying to get services at Centerstone and waiting months.
So-
And that's with a referral from the Safe Children Coalition, which is supposed to fast track you.
Right, so they have a staffing problem. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm very familiar with Centerstone. They've failed at the school system. They're failing now on a daily basis with some of our citizens that I know personally. So if they can't get the staff, how is this new organization Under One Roof gonna get the staff to bring in the duplicate services that Centerstone cannot provide? I'm
It's
confused.
not duplicate services because it's the same people, it's the same workers. Literally, they're just taking their staff and going two under one roof for 4 hours a week, or however many hours a week.
You talking about Centerstone and Turning Points?
Yeah.
They can't do that now. They are maxed out. They're short personnel, they're short funding, and now you want them to extend their services in an off-site facility. I don't know, I would question the success rate, the recidivism rate
I think
on a
that
program like that. I mean, I'm
I
all
think
for it.
I think you have an interesting perspective, but that's not what I've heard from any of the providers. None of them, so I've spoken with over a dozen nonprofits, and all of them have been extremely excited, enthusiastic, on board, saying, yes, we can do this, we're ready to do this. These families need this. I haven't heard, we don't have the staffing, we can't manage to get out there for a couple hours a week. If I was hearing that, I would take it very seriously, and I understand what you're saying, and there are staffing problems in those industries for sure, I agree with you, but I'm not hearing from those providers.
Well, I will tell you this, I'm engaged with the school district, and we currently have over 1,000 homeless students that Centerstone is supposed to be counseling to, and they have failed miserably with the school district. So if you're going by their track record, where they're gonna come out to 57th Street, I would question that and look for alternative sources.
We're
That's all
gonna
I'm
see,
saying.
and I will look for alternative sources. I have I've worked significantly in the past with the Florida Center for Early Childhood Development. They do absolutely great work. It is a little bit of a smaller organization. They're mostly in Sarasota County, but they do some work in Manatee. And I haven't spoken to them yet about whether they're able and willing to work at the site, but they work with families in the child welfare system. I expect that some of the families who will be part of Under One Roof will also have involvement in the child welfare system. It wouldn't be surprising. So I think that several of those providers that are providing services for clients in home and who are involved in the child welfare system will also be willing to come out to Under One Roof and provide those services as well.
Well, I think it's gonna be a big benefit to Salvation Army to get those families out of there, because that's in a sketchy neighborhood. I mean, it'd be nice to have families in one facility. You know, you got the clientele at Salvation Army that is not conducive to family living there, right?
I think it'll be a really exciting thing for them, for Salvation Army, because it'll allow them also to expand their services for women as well.
Right.
So the space that right now they're using for 5 or 6 families, they'll be able to expand to maybe 40 women. And so that'll be really exciting, because right now we have a lot of women who have absolutely nowhere to go. And so that's another benefit that is kind of a second order benefit for sure. Yes?
2 questions. One, just to clarify, the property that you're talking about up at the port,
Mhm.
is that Commissioner Bearden's proposal? Is that the same?
No.
This is separate from that?
This is separate.
Okay. Secondly, aside from law enforcement related issues regarding the opioid crisis, you know, what do you see as the biggest challenge locally? You know, based on your experience, based on what you've learned since being elected, what's the greatest need related to the opioid crisis here in Manatee County?
I think it is, I think it's the wait for treatment for a lot of people, I think is huge. And I think that with one large provider in town, I think that a lot of people they've gone there, and they've not been successful, and then they don't necessarily want to go back there.
So, okay.
And so I think that that's a big struggle.
Well, the treatment problem has been an issue since the beginning of the crisis.
Mhm.
You know, when this area started getting flooded with heroin and fentanyl and what have you. How do these other programs that you described, like for instance, the program in Baltimore might provide or offer, how can that be effective before you do something about the treatment issue, about the fact that there's no beds to get treatment? Because, I mean, until you deal with that.
Well, that's that's exactly what we're trying to address.
Okay, what can the county do for that, to get more treatment beds here?
So potentially, the county could provide a site that then a provider could build on. So again, that's a benefit that maybe would.
How realistic do you think that is?
I don't know
considered?
yet. I'm exploring that right now.
Well, but I'm thinking of the political, circumstances. So maybe you had an opportunity to do that for veterans, and that didn't happen. Or doesn't look like it's gonna happen.
Don't think negative.
My
I've been here
hope,
18 years.
my hope is to do things in my own backyard, so that people can't say not in my backyard, and I'll say, well, it's in my backyard, so you don't really have a lot to say if it's in my district.
Well, here's the thing, you are really an at-large commissioner because you vote on all the projects in all the districts. So when I hear a commissioner say, well, that's not in my wheelhouse, well, you're voting on it, whether it's in your district or not. So I look at the 7 as all at-large commissioners, because they vote on things all over the county at every meeting. So you can carve out your niche for your district, but in reality, 90% of the agenda items are countywide.
A lot of things are countywide, absolutely, but Mark was asking how I was gonna get people to agree to do something like this, and my answer is, if I put it in my district, I take the heat for it, and it is what it is.
But a lot of those things that you mentioned in your list, of things that you're working on, things that you're paying attention to, I would probably argue half of them, if not more, are countywide issues, because you're gonna have people from all over the county
Sure.
theoretically could use those services that you're talking
Of course.
about providing.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I get your point about taking care of your district and, in that, addressing the NIMBY argument in that way. But there are very few issues that are that parochial,
Absolutely.
because, like Glenn said, the whole commission gets to vote, has a say on that. So I think you realize that, but I mean, I think that's the reality too. I mean, you need to.
But I think that the reality is that other commissioners are a lot less likely to cry foul if I'm asking for a treatment center in my district versus theirs.
Maybe.
We'll see. Yes.
Yeah, again, with the under one roof, who's gonna be over the operations of the facility?
We're working on that.
We're working, okay.
So we've got a few nonprofits that have expressed interest,
Okay.
and and we really haven't come to a decision yet as to who's actually going to be running it on the day-to-day. Really, there are only a few nonprofits who operate in this geographic region who are capable of running that type of operation, just because of the scale. But we're not there yet, but there will be, once the operator's been chosen, there will be a press release and things like that.
Okay. Are you guys wanting just a nonprofit to run this facility, or all options on the table?
We're looking for a nonprofit, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would just like to say, I do know a family member personally who was very successful at Centerstone, and I think there is a huge need for that, and I'm very excited to hear that you're doing that. Even if it's only 25 families, you're serving 25 families that you wouldn't have ordinarily served before, so my kudos are to you for that.
Thank you, and I absolutely don't want to beat up on Centerstone, because they do amazing work every day, and they help a lot of people. But like we've been talking about, I mean, they have major staffing issues, and being the only big provider in town, once someone goes there a couple of times, hasn't found success, a lot of times they kind of give up on it and say, well, that's just not for me, I'm not gonna go back there. I've seen that happen quite a bit.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's the person seeking the help that also has to put in the work, so.
Absolutely.
it's-
Absolutely. Anybody else? Yes?
The convention center expansion, that is for, it's been added for business travel. And it's just for business travel only?
No, that'll just be the biggest economic benefit.
Oh, okay. Okay. Just wanted to know, because I didn't know if you, if it's gonna be used for, entertainment purposes too.
Yeah, I think it could potentially, but the thing that I think people are most excited about is the potential for that business travel and conferences.
Got it.
But yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna be open to anybody who's willing to rent it out and pay the fee probably.
Right. Okay.
Maybe not anybody,
Yeah.
but most.
So this is before your time, so it may be an unfair question,
Okay.
but there was $15 million earmarked of CARES money,
Mhm,
not the taxpayers' money.
mhm,
You didn't kick in, I didn't kick in, it was federal money
mhm,
earmarked for veterans,
mhm.
specifically to revamp the jail across the street.
I remember that.
So that money didn't get used there, so we should still have the 15 million out of the 78 million CARES. Now, I understand it's been whittled down, I don't know why that is, but even if it was, the tunnels to towers with the $6 million value on the land,
Mhm.
if we have 15 million set aside, according to previous administrators, all voted by the board, why can't we just take 6 million, pay the utilities, let Tunnels to Tower do their organization? They've got $20 million of their own money, shovel ready, and take the remainder of the money and go work on Jason's project on the 22 acres. I don't know what all the pushback is with Tunnels to Tower.
I think Tunnels to Towers is great. I would love to see them succeed and be in Manatee County.
So we have
I
your
love it.
vote?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm on board.
Okay.
I think they're a great organization. I love what they do.
Okay, so I was at Stand Down Saturday in Sarasota. We talk about rapid down services for veterans, right? So everybody was there. And of course, we have another one in Manatee coming in November.
Mhm.
I would encourage you to go there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like those little nonprofits you don't know about, but they come out of the woodwork to help the vets, right?
I would love to, absolutely. Yeah, and I've found so many little nonprofits that have come out of the woodwork for this family transitional housing, because, you know, we say, look, here's a place that, you know, you can be, that you can provide those services that you want to provide, even if it's just a few hours a week. You know, we can get 30, 40 nonprofits in here to help people. So I would love to do that, absolutely.
And I think if you go to Bayside over at Mixon and say, we're gonna help the families on 57th Street, and we need to furnish all these apartments. They got a whole warehouse, you get the furniture for nothing.
That is actually such a good idea, because I've kind of been racking my brain about that. And I was talking to one of the potential operators last week, and they said, you know, is the county gonna be furnishing this? And I said, well, that's not really in the budget, so.
Well, if you haven't been back there, go look at
No,
the
I mean, I
distribution.
know what they're doing over there, but I hadn't thought about that. It's a really great idea, and I'm gonna talk to them like ASAP.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yes, sir?
Back to the legislative priority.
Yeah.
You talked about the tax reduction for the landlords.
Yep.
For smaller units. Can you define that? Is it like 50 units?
No, I'm looking for individual
Oh,
landlords.
individual.
Like, let's say you own a home or two,
Oh, okay.
and you're renting those out at, you know, a rent that's, you know, 40% of our median income.
Mm-hmm.
Then you would get such a, you know, and you agree to do that for, let's say, 3 years, then you would get a certain level of tax reduction for your agreement to offer that unit for an affordable price.
Oh,
Right now, it's only offered to new development with large numbers of land, like at least 50 units, I believe. But in the original legislation, it did include those individual units and small landlords.
all right, yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
get it defined, that's all. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. All right, yes,
Wetlands.
yes.
Okay. very big issue, and they're all over the county, including District 2.
Sure.
Have you taken any time to review the previous 2 court cases or spin yourself up on the science behind wetlands? Because I know Suncoast Waterkeeper is offering a program tomorrow night, actually, with all experts about wetlands. And this is a very important issue, and as you know, a lot of people were very upset at the last meeting when you dealt with the wetlands, and they sent that forward for transmittal.
Mhm. So I met with Suncoast Waterkeepers, I believe it was on Thursday or Friday of last week. I had 3 people who came to my office and met with them. I haven't reviewed the court cases specifically. I have reviewed several studies that were presented to me, both by our consultant as well as Suncoast Waterkeepers and a couple of other scientists in the community. So I have reviewed that. I will review the court cases though, absolutely.
So tomorrow they're gonna talk about the Bird Harris Act on Panther Ridge.
Mhm.
There's still
I'm not gonna talk about that one because that's,
quasi.
But, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I just, they're hijacking the whole thing. Anyways, I'll be there tomorrow and I'll speak about it.
all right.
Okay, as long as you're aware of it. And I'm
Yeah.
on board with the wetlands. I listened to hours of testimony from scientists, from professionals, and, the other side had nobody. They had a carpetbagger from the East Coast as far as that was concerned. And it didn't take 2 minutes to decide, send a transmission letter. I think it was a mistake. I think, I'm glad you met with the waterkeepers and hopefully got another view on it. I'm not sure the process on the transmittal letter when it comes back, if you can refuse it, delay it. I'm not that into the politics, but I'm glad you being more knowledgeable about that and the lawsuit, so.
Yeah, I will review the
take a
lawsuit
second
for
look
sure.
at it.
And they asked, there was a book actually, The Gulf, that one of the, that Rusty Chinnis said I should read, so I might try to hop into that before that meeting as well.
And put it in the bookmobile.
There we go, I'll put it in the bookmobile for sure. All right, yes, ma'am?
Development out east. Obviously, we've gotten East River Ranch and, the new, I can't remember all of them right now. It's escaping me. But the issues that have been coming up have been about the consequences of moving the FDAB and what it will cost us to extend utility service beyond where the FDAB currently is. And the number I have heard is really quite astronomical, like over almost $400 million from what I heard to extend the services way out. This is bothering me because it feels like these kinds of numbers should have been looked into before making any kind of decision like it was made in December of last year when how many thousands of people were lined up to talk and everything about these developments. And considering the potential astronomical costs and the fact that we're redoing the comp plan right now, we are vesting rights to these developers and then potentially putting the whole county on the hook for hundreds of millions of dollars just to benefit, one, people who aren't here, and the people who are here are people who are really, really wealthy and they have lifetimes of money already. So what can you do in this comp plan process now to maybe, fix some of this? Because I don't think it's right that we should be on the hook for somewhere around $400 million to extend utilities, and we're not even benefiting from it.
Sure. So I think that one issue is the policy 2.1.2.8, which was passed in 2021. And I do think it needs some adjustment and tweaking. I don't know that I would have voted for that policy if I were on the board at that time. But I do think that that policy grants an expectation that people have acted on at this point. I think that there are adjustments that we do need to make in the comp planning process. I agree with you. And I do think that as we move out east, we need to look at things like our facility investment fees and make sure that the people who are moving in are paying those higher fees versus, just pushing it onto everyone. So kind of the idea of making the growth pay for itself versus making all of us in our portion of the county who can't necessarily afford it pay for the growth.
I appreciate that, and it's just like, when talking to Commissioner Bearden last week, he seemed kind of blown away by like the overall number and not really wanting to increase that to keep the cost of that housing relatively affordable. But I don't know if it's connected that even the current impact fees are not enough, because there's issues with, I guess, the current impact fee study that's been hanging out there, and not collecting the entirety of impact fees already. So where are you on moving forward with the impact fees?
So I believe that you're right. We do have an impact fee study that is outstanding, that hasn't been addressed. And so I think we need to look at it again and see, what percentage of impact fees are we assessing right now, and does that need to go higher? And is that ultimately going to end up being put onto, an end consumer, or is that something that that a developer is going to be willing to eat? And my guess is no, the developer's not going to be willing to eat that cost, so it's just going to result in potentially higher prices for people who are trying to buy a home, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so the impact fees, I agree. I mean, we're nowhere near where we need to be. And to wait 4 or 5 years to increase them again is insane. I'll give you an example. When I built my house, I had 3 price increases in less than 1 year. 3, and they said, we don't care when you sign the contract. Here's what it costs. Here's what a yard of concrete costs today. And you're going to eat the difference. The county doesn't do that with these developers. You're still giving them the price from 4 years ago. And who's going to make up the difference? We are, the taxpayers. We're not even at 100%, and the 90% theoretically doesn't cover 40% of the real today cost money on the infrastructure. So it's a big problem, and I think you need to do just like the subcontractors do. Here's our contract, but subject to change, right?
Sure.
Asphalt goes up, your price is going up. I mean, let's be fair about it. If they're going to cover the cost of impact fees and development, make it in today's numbers. It's I don't know. That's your problem. Hopefully we can figure it out.
Hopefully. Yeah, I mean, I've thought about, in addition, trying to see if there was a way to waive impact fees for people who are moving within the county, because obviously you're not creating a new impact if you already live in the county, or whether, maybe there could be some sort of real estate transfer fee. I'm going to piss off all the realtors if I say this, but some kind of real estate transfer fee for people who are moving into the county, to add to that as well. But yeah, it is something that should be addressed.
But where is it in you guys have power to put things on the agenda. What are your burning things, other than the bookmobile and, mix-ins and stuff, for these big issues that affect this district and every single district, this particular one, this is everybody, and it's huge. And so are you gonna step up on this issue? Are you gonna lead on this issue? Are you gonna let Commissioner Van Ostenbridge lead on this issue? Where is this in your bundle of priorities?
Let's say that it is, I think it's important. It is something that I'm happy to address. It's not something that I have done the research on at this point to be confident to be the leader and liaison on. I have a significant wheelhouse that I'm working in, where I feel comfortable and confident being a leader, that I have the institutional knowledge, that I have the connections in the community, areas that I feel that I am suited to lead and that I'm currently leading, and I will continue to do that. Now, do I have the ability to get up to speed and become informed on some of these issues? Yeah, I do. Am I there yet? No. Yes.
There is a perception among some people in this county that the county commission is bought and paid for by the developers. Not suggesting that's true or not, but that's the perception among a lot of people. How do you respond to that? What do you, I mean, if somebody comes up to you, like me or Charlene or Glenn, says, y'all are bought and paid for by the developers, how do you address that?
Sure. My answer to that is, I'm absolutely not bought and paid for by anybody. You can go and look at my little meager home and see that I'm not getting paid by anybody but the county government. That, I vote based on what I think is the right thing to do. I do believe in letting people use their land. I've actually, I've been considering bringing some reductions in some code enforcement regulations up, because I think that, we do too much to control what people are doing with their land on a day-to-day basis. I think that there are people out there who are absolutely dedicated to misunderstanding, and no matter what I say, they're gonna continue to be dedicated to misunderstanding. And at a certain point, when someone's dedicated to misunderstanding me, where I stand and what I want to do, there's really, we can only engage so far.
And regardless of whether it's founded or unfounded, I mean, it goes to the confidence that the public has in the county commission when they see decisions being, a lot of what would be considered pro-developer decisions being made, whether it's water, or whether it's wetlands or votes on individual projects. It seems to me that it's caused y'all a public confidence problem. How do you deal with that?
I think that the antidote to that is to have the ability to explain why you do what you do, to explain, what your issues are, and just kind of let the chips fall where they may.
Thanks.
Yep. So, again, we're coming up on 8 now. If you want to keep talking, I'll give it a few more minutes, but go ahead.
My last question. My mother, she lives in District 2.
Okay. Do you live in District 2?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Who actually lives in District 2? Yeah, there we go. Okay, interesting.
My mother, like I said, she lives in District 2, and apparently she has her neighbor is growing a tree in her yard.
Okay.
She just wanted to know who she should contact to get that tree removed.
Sure. Well, we'll give you my card, and she can reach out to me.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if we can specifically address an issue between the neighbors,
Right,
but,
that's why I was just trying to clarify.
and also, is she in the city or county?
It'd be the county.
Okay.
One, I think you're doing a great job in District 2. I think it was neglected for a long time, so I appreciate you. I guess my only issue I found is the communication on finding these meetings.
Okay.
I had no idea until like a day ago, 2 days ago, and I don't think the county's doing a great job on posting these meetings.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we missed the comprehensive plan meetings, workshops, and we would have totally been there.
There would be more.
Okay, good. That's what I was gonna ask you, because we just, school had just started, a lot of them were in August, and it was kind of a wild time. So yeah, more communication on the town halls and
Okay.
the comp plan meeting, for sure, we wanna go.
Okay, yeah, I think that that's a great idea. I will say, I did see it posted on Facebook, and then there were like just 30 comments of people like insulting me. So that was fun. And so I didn't think to encourage them to repost it, because I was kind of annoyed at people just kind of tearing into my personal appearance.
Do you have like a District 2 like email, or I know George Cruz puts like his little blog out, so like we follow his blog, so I didn't know if you had anything
So I have a Facebook page. I've thought about putting out like a newsletter or something like
Yeah.
that. I think it would probably be a good idea.
or read it.
I might start working on that, and just put it out, every couple of months, or maybe once a month. No, I think that's a great idea. Just communicate with people who want to hear it.
I mean, is there any possibility of getting on the county calendar? Because I'm with you, I had a difficult time.
Really,
So-
it's not on the county calendar?
I called 311, and the lady was like, I don't understand what you're
Well, if
asking.
you-
And I was like, I just need to know if there's a
Interesting.
meeting tonight. She's like, who do I transfer you to? And I was like, I don't know, you tell me.
I Googled Manatee County Commission town halls,
Uh-huh.
and the page that came up was like some virtual town halls they had last year.
10 years ago.
Okay, well, I'll see if
Last year.
I'll see if I can, if we can do better with that.
It was on the
Because-
county calendar, but the problem is getting people to find it easily is not necessarily, it's something that they can do. I mean, when I was looking for it and then Googling it, I Googled Manatee County calendar, and for me, the first multiple listings that came up were the school board.
Yeah.
So making it, I guess, more prominent, but it was on the county calendar, like south of the river town
Okay.
hall was on the calendar.
All right, well, I don't know. I will tell our public information folks that it's maybe not as successful as it should be, and see if they have any ideas. And I do like the newsletter idea, maybe I'll do that.
And the last time they posted it on social media was last week, like last Tuesday.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that's why I
maybe get
found
them to
it.
do a couple more.
If you want more than 8 people.
Well, and you know what, I've had, so this is number 5 of 8 for the year, and attendance has been all over the place, yeah.
It's football.
Well, exactly, I know, I didn't think about Bucks Monday Night Football, honestly, and that was a huge scheduling oversight, honestly.
The Eagles are leading 3-0.
Thank you for that, actually.
Well, thank you for coming.
Yeah, absolutely.